like all it is has been this has been appealed basically, and there's still going to be a lot of work that goes behind it. But you can't start distilling today. Like that's not
right. Means. Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit! Better turn off my equipment.
Unplug it real quick.
Podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Gold Eagle Jake.
And today we're talking about the home distilling ban being overturned by the Fifth Circuit of Appeals. Really interesting story, and one that kind of popped up out of nowhere. I don't know if
I didn't even know that this was going through an appeal process in the Fifth Circuit Court. I haven't paid attention to it at all. So
from what I looked at, it was originally the case started in 2024, so it's been going for a while, as a lot of these cases do. It's an interesting development for spirits enthusiasts.
I'd say home brewer enthusiasts.
That too, yeah. So I'll try and be concise. I read like most of the ruling. At least I've read the parts that make.
Did you read it or did you plug it into ChatGPT?
No, I read it.
Okay.
I read it.
And to be fair, I actually wish you would have put it into ChatGPT and got a synopsis. I feel it'd be more accurate.
So basically, the overview of the case is that this guy Scott McNutt, God bless his name,
Bengal mix in the frame right there for a minute.
Bought a home still and somehow popped up on the TTB's radar, and they started sending him letters saying like, hey, we're going to come after you if you start distilling. So he was in some sort of like distillers group in, I think, Georgia or somewhere.
It was down south. I don't know how I haven't read into that at all. More than likely what I'm guessing is he probably bought a decent size still.
Yeah, so the reason the TTB sent him a notice was because it was like a very large still.
And it was probably caught an audit from the still company that is still.
Yeah, you need a license to purchase a series.
You do not.
You don't.
Over a certain size, you do.
But
over a certain size, you do.
But that's going to raise some flags. If somebody, I'm sure they're checking into all these major still purchases and seeing where they're going. And if you don't have anything,
if it's probably less than a 15-gallon still, they don't give a shit. And it's not even tracked like mine didn't.
Does it say what this one was?
No, they didn't. But the TTB's
like a 20-foot column still.
Well, the letter they sent, McNutt said that he may have purchased a still capable of producing alcohol and or equipment and materials that may be used in the manufacture of a still. Federal law provides no exemptions for the production of distilled spirits for personal or family use. But I mean, they're like threatening him with $500,000 fines and imprisonment for 5 years. So I'm guessing it was a pretty sizable still. For them to care, at least.
Yeah, for them to reach out, yes.
So anyway, him and some of the guys from their like group called the TTB and were like, hey, can we get a license to distill? And the TTB said absolutely not, and basically just told them it's illegal. So like, no, we're not going to issue you any kind of permit or anything. So then they decided to sue the TTB and the DOJ, which is how we ended up getting this case. So the interesting part of the case, and I'm gonna assume that our listeners are like somewhat constitutionally literate, so I'm not going to give a civics lesson today.
Our government is it, so I doubt it.
But basically, the DOJ argued that the ban of home distilling falls under Congress's necessary and proper powers, and that they're basically allowed to, regulate, whatever they want. But what's interesting is they tied it to the power to tax. And that seems to be where the court found the grounds for overturning. So Congress is given the power to tax, all that stuff. What the court ruled was that based on the wording of the Constitution plus a bunch of other precedent cases, is that banning an activity that would otherwise be taxable does not fall under the authority to tax, because you're not able to actually tax anything if you're banning it. So that's where I think the big caveat comes in on this. Like, they're not overturning this on the basis that you should be allowed to distill. They're overturning it on the basis of taxation law. So don't go firing up your stills just yet, because all they have to do is pass another law that says, we're going to ban home distilling on grounds of some other reason. And then, it's back in effect, basically. And as Dan noted, before we started, or before the episode started, local laws are still in full force on this. So you have to check your local laws as well. Make sure there's no home distilling bans at your state or local level.
And even on top of this, you still, even like, there's still a lot of dust that has to settle from this yet. Yeah. They're saying that it's unconstitutional to ban home distilling, which you've been able to do home brewing, home winemaking forever. It's always been on the spirit side. And it's because of taxes. Everything in alcohol boils down to taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously taxes is a big part of it, but also probably because you can actually go blind and kill yourself from.
You can't. The blind thing's a little rough. It's right, more
blind is blind, but you can get very sick from.
You can get very sick. You can
the wrong parts, and if you don't know what you're doing while you're distilling. But it is very interesting that the taxation is why it was overturned and makes sense.
I mean, it's also It's also not overly difficult if you don't know what you're doing to blow your house up like it's a meth lab.
Yes.
With home distillation.
Yeah.
So there's going to be safety concerns on it. So basically what the federal government's saying is, hey, this is unconstitutional to ban it because of this. There's going to be laws, even if you still want. So you've been able to do home distilling, just not for drinkable alcohol. And we'll probably get into that in a little bit. Like, it's not illegal to own a still. You can buy all the stuff. You can actually distill things. That's never been illegal. But what are states going to do? And I can guarantee if you're in California, Illinois, or New York, even if this does clear, they're going to figure out a way to tax the hell out of it. Those states
that's the other part of the argument to overturn. Like the one of the things that the government argued was that if home distillation were permitted, it would be almost impossible to properly tax it, because how are you going to actually document and prove how much people are producing? And
but that's the same for brewing and winemaking.
Well, exactly. The court was like, tough shit. Like, sucks to suck. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You can't just ban it because you can't enforce taxation law.
Right. So there's going to be a lot of dust that has to settle, and then it's going to boil down to state laws, things like that. If you're a home brewer or a home winemaker, and you want to learn more about it, this is exciting news for you. If you're a big whiskey fan and ever thought about wanting to make your own, this can lead to legal paths for you to do that, which I think is good. But
yeah, I mean,
if you're going to do this, you need to do research and understand it very well. We can talk about that later too. But
yeah, you know, like there's also a pretty decent chance that the DOJ will appeal again. And I think this would go to the Supreme Court after the appeals courts.
After Fifth Supreme Court, yeah.
You know, there's always a chance that it gets upheld at that level too. Though this might not, they might determine that this isn't worth the fight. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it'll probably go down that road of the little tax dollars, and I guarantee you Brown-Forman, Sazerac, and stuff are on the government side on this because they don't want people making their own stuff and taking away some of their money. But they're going to have to find out. Like, I don't know. I don't know the judicial system well enough to know if they can take this to the Supreme Court. With it being taxation, they would have to probably do it with a different way of more or less safety. Probably would probably be their next best fight to get it banned.
Yeah, and that's I don't know if I don't know what like the rules are for like once you appeal. Are you allowed to like change your argument or not?
I don't know. You're not allowed to change your argument, so they'd have to start anew. The other thing that is in this is even with this overturn, you would still have to get a permit from the TTB to home distill legally. So you can't just, let's say everything just says, yep, you can home distill now. You can't just go buy a still, start home distilling without first getting a permit from the TTB. So, which the TTB permit I have is a free permit. So, there's that.
What is your permit for?
My permit that I applied for was I could make up to 5 gallons of lawnmower fuel per year. But it's technically invalid, which is fine because I haven't distilled since I moved out of Island Lake because my TTB permit was permitted for that address.
Gotcha.
You allegedly haven't distilled since.
I haven't distilled since I left Island Lake. Like I that won't be an allegedly. There will be a lot of allegedlys probably in our conversations. But I have not distilled anything since I left where my TTB permit was assigned to. So that still has been in storage since. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean it's an interesting development, I think, for like you said, home brewers, home winemakers, and also spirits enthusiasts. I think you wanted to talk a little bit more about home distilling in general, Dan.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to jump the gun on this, like
hypothetically, what would you do?
Well, I mean, this is still legal. What I did was,
but not
I applied.
Advice.
Yeah, this is not legal advice. This is what I did that follows the letter of the law. Was I bought a still? You can buy cheap stills on Amazon. I probably got about $3 or $4 grand in my setup, I bet. And it's a 3-gallon still. Like you can buy cheap copper stills that you heat with fire off Amazon. I bought one from a company in Colorado called Mile High HI Distilling. Because you can buy stills to make things like essential oils, or it is legal to make fuel.
Even there's distilled water.
Distilled water. You're legally allowed to do all those things. You still need to have a permit to distill, and I'm sure that's more or less the safety matters behind everything. You can go onto the TTB and apply for a permit. Now, like the small 3, 5, 8-gallon stills, they're not going to have serial numbers or anything on it, so there's a lot of information that you don't put, but it has to be addressed and everything. Now, I will give the government credit. I did this probably 4 years ago-ish, 3, 4 years ago. Like I applied and within a week I had my permit for everything. It actually went fairly quick. And again, my permit was I could make up to 5 gallons of ethanol a year. So regardless, if you want to get a permit, you can get at least a permit for that. You'll probably have to get a permit change or something later, would be my guess. I don't know. Again, this is just, all that's really been said is it's unconstitutional to ban home distilling. That's only where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
But after you get a legal setup, like I'm not legal to drink what I distill because I was distilling ethanol for my lawnmower. Lawnmower ran great. So you can start that process. The first thing I would say is if you're a home brewer, you're already halfway there. You're going to need something to cook your mash in. And like I have a Brewzilla. I've never done beer, but I have a Brewzilla that I use as basically my mash tun to be able to make the mash to get to the spot where I can ferment. And then you're going to have all your fermenting stuff that you have with your home brew set up. You already know the first initial steps. I will say I did a lot of research, and if you have like some of the bigger home brew setups, some of them started offering attachments to be able to turn it into a still. Don't go that way. Get like an actual still setup of something. You want copper. You don't just want stainless steel. So if you want to do this, I would look into still setups. I love Mile High Distilling, and then the most important thing is knowledge. So this is like Jake said. Yeah, if you don't know how to make cuts, you're going to be drinking some stuff that's poisonous shit that's going to make you feel like crap. And we can talk about ways to try and figure that out. If you've never distilled before, which I'm guessing a lot of people haven't. I started this way and then I became a distiller. Do research on your equipment and then do research on how to do everything properly, the process and everything. What I did is there's a YouTube channel. The guy's retired. He's an old boy on a YouTube channel called Barley and Hops Brewing that has phenomenal walkthroughs of setups and everything. And then proper ways to make a mash, check, like knowing where your pHs need to be, knowing where your fermentation, why is it fermenting? Why isn't it fermenting? Like do a lot of knowledge. And then the most important thing is like how to properly do this safely. A still is a pressurized system, a highly pressurized system with alcohol vapor, which is highly flammable. There's lots of things that can go wrong. You don't want to be distilling in your garage with all the doors shut and smoking a cigar. That's a great way to blow up a house. So there are ways to do home distillation, but make sure you know what you're doing before you hop into it. This isn't something like, I'm not saying like you can just hop into making beer and stuff either. Like you can make beer incorrectly, not have everything sanitized properly, get bacteria in it, and get super sick off of homebrew. Mm-hmm. The one benefit to distilling is you don't need to worry about the bacteria side as much because you're basically going to be boiling any of it away anyways if you do get something in your mash.
Yeah. So I mean, to go back a little bit, like you said, the copper is really important. Mm-hmm. I think some of our listeners and viewers probably know why copper is important, but do you want to talk about that a little bit first, like a stainless steel or
9:33 in the morning my time, and you want me to talk science? It helps strip some of the sulfides and things off. Like my still was a stainless steel pot and then a full copper column that I packed with mesh copper or copper mesh and everything too. But like a lot of the like attachments for some of the home brewing kits are very cheaply made and you're not going to get great results. Temperature control is very important. So not only did like the still setup I had a big wire electrical heater that went through it, which is either on or off. So I decided to hook it up to a voltage meter so I could dial in temperatures because when you're distilling, you don't want to go super high because you're going to get a ton of other vapors coming off and a ton of water vapor coming up, and it's going to make your alcohol taste like crap. You don't just want to be like, this is coming out slow. Let's just increase the temperature. I wanted a way to control temperature, things like that. You need to understand what's going on with the still, and you need to understand the science of it first. But copper is going to be important. I even paid for a blowout relief valve on my still just to avoid any chance of, or avoid more of a chance of an explosion or things like that. So you need to understand what you're doing. Same with beer making, same with wine making, though. But and then if you're a big whiskey fan, you obviously know that we always talk about your cuts, your heads, your hearts, your tails. First up coming off that still is going to have methanol, which is poisonous. It's going to have acetane, which is poisonous. You don't want to be drinking and consuming that stuff, which you can't because you're making lawnmower fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
what'd you do with your lawnmower fuel?
I put it in my lawnmower.
Did you put it in oak just to see what would happen?
I didn't put it in oak because I now need to buy a barrel and it'd be illegal to have aging equipment. I did have an accident where I spilled some charred wood shavings into the lawnmower fuel, and they stayed there for a little bit, and it turned it a different color. So I had to kind of get that out, but then it went in the lawnmower after I got all the wood shavings out.
And did the lawnmower run better?
Didn't run bad. Yeah, I mean, if you've done brewing, you understand the fermentation process. If you've done wine, you understand the fermentation process. And you need to do all that to make lawnmower fuel. So, but the biggest thing is like, and I'm sure most home brewers have had a hung fermentation and things like that. So if you understand your fermentation process, you have 90% of the hard work out of the way. The last 10% is how to properly run a still and how to make your cuts. Now, Jake, you were there when we did the first batch of lawnmower fuel.
Yeah.
And it was insane. So, this is probably about a year or two into getting big into whiskey for us.
Mm-hmm.
And like the best way I figured is like there's some math that you can do, and roughly it's going to be around, after you know what your ABV is, you can say, all right, well, there should be X amount of alcohol in the still, which means this is how many fluid ounces are going to be coming out of it that are alcohol. Roughly X amount is going to be heads, hearts, tails, and you can track it that way. If you are wanting to learn how to make cuts, what I did for my first time is I think we had mason jars with 50 mil marks on every single mason jar, and we'd get a mason jar to 50 mils, cap it, put another one in, cap it, and then we just lined them up. We had them all labeled 1 through I think 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And it was pretty impressive because we didn't know jack shit about distilling at the time, but it was me, you, and Roberto. And we all agreed on like, all right, these mason jars are not good. These mason jars are not good.
Yeah.
This is where the good lawnmower fuel is.
Yeah, as you can smell it, like when it starts to get into the hearts. Like it's a very, very different and cleaner smell.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. A distiller had told me get your permit from the TTB, because even if like, let's say I was distilling in my garage and I had a neighbor that hated me and they saw a still running, they could call government and it could be a $10,000 fine and 5 years in jail just for a small 3-gallon still, even if you're just making lawnmower fuel. So make sure to get a permit. Again, I don't know when or what the rules are going to be with what it's going to be if you want to make actually distilled spirits. Like that's still got to all unfold. But I would think if you want to start learning, you could still go for the lawnmower fuel route and start to learn how to distill. So that way, when it's legal, you can start making good whiskey or gin or whatever.
Yeah. Do you ever see it becoming legal?
Yeah. I think it'll become legal. I think there'll be permits around it. And I think they'll figure out a way to put a high tax on stills and things like that. So maybe it might be smart if you're interested in it to start looking.
I mean,
we're gonna just open up, a ton, good and bad, if we do get to that point. And we know the government's going to fight it as hard and as long as possible, probably to avoid that.
Yeah.
I could see it going the same way that like home brewing did, where there's some sort of cap on what you're allowed to produce, in your home per year or whatever. I don't know if that's actually the case with home brewing, but For distillation, I could see if they cap you at like 50 gallons or something a year, or,
and
arbitrary number they decide.
Yeah, and they can still, even like if you're going to apply, since they're going to, as of now, I don't know if they'll change it, but I'm sure they'll keep it. You still need to get a TTB permit, and I'm sure they can tax you on the permit.
Yep.
So
yeah, that ethanol permit won't be free anymore.
Well, there'll probably be different. I guarantee you, the ethanol one will still be free for people that want to make their own.
Charge you.
They'll charge you if you want to get one
for the other one or something.
I'm again, this is all just speculation, but the government's going to get their tax money any way they can.
They'll probably make you renew it annually too, or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they made, like, some states even take it like the way of like concealed carry, where every once in a while you have to go take a class or prove that you did something, just because there is a safety thing. Like, it's not impossible to blow your house up home distilling.
Yeah.
And alcohol vapor is highly flammable. So, yeah, and then it also depends on if this keeps going and you can produce home spirits, like what you want to produce and how you want to produce it. So the still I bought has it's called a viewing screen. If they ever made it legal, I could technically have that be like a gin basket for vapor distillation of botanicals and things.
Well, you could do that with your essential oils or...
Yeah, true. With essential oils and stuff, yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to be looking at doing gin or things like that, your two ways to get the flavor is either vapor distillation, which is the better way, or like the old tea bag style. So there's different things, but it'll be fun. I will say I had a blast distilling, and I spent a lot of money on my setup. You can do them a whole lot cheaper. I mean, let's go back to the history of this. It started in the woods of Kentucky by hillbillies.
Yeah, make your own. If you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like people like out in like West Virginia and stuff use like water heaters and like stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, you can still do it fire and the old fashioned way. I just wanted to have something a little bit more professional set up. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and plus I had a bunch of fuck you money that I got, and like I'm going to spend some of this fuck you money on a still. So I bought a decent setup. Way nice for what I needed, but it made it more fun. And like, I mean,
easier.
Before I bought the Brewzilla, the way I would make the mash was I had a shrimp boil set up.
Yeah.
And I made it in that with fire. But now I got the Brewzilla, which makes it easier to chill and stuff at the end. But do your research. And there's a few different YouTube distillation channels out there that are pretty popular. Like I said, Barley and Hops, just an old boy who I enjoyed the hell out of, but that's how I learned a lot of the process. The science side, I did a lot more reading on. But make sure you know what you're doing, because it can be very dangerous. So, yeah, I think it's overall good. I think it's fun. I think it's if you enjoy whiskey, like, if you got a group of guys that's interested in it, like, it's definitely fun to go and learn. Now, when you start making stuff, I would say if once we get to the point where you can actually make alcohol that you can drink and not just stuff that you put in your lawnmower, I wouldn't start trying to make a whiskey right away. Like an apple pie moonshine or something like that, where you're adding flavor in to cover up a lot of stuff. Because when you start, I bet it's going to taste like shit. We talk about even big distilleries with experienced distillers, their first few batches might not taste nearly as good as what happens in the future. So you're not going to, once you get to the point where we can start producing alcohol that you can drink, you're not going to come out bangers. So make sure you start off with stuff to learn the process that you can add flavoring to and make it drinkable.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, going and aging it in oak just brings a whole nother layer of complexity and cost with the barrels. And there's a lot of horror stories I've heard from people that have tried aging their own whiskey at home in smaller barrels. It just turns a lot quicker than you might expect, or leakage or whatnot. And
I would recommend on that, Jake, is not starting with barrels.
No, yeah, I'm sure.
Start in a mason jar and get the toasted wood skewers. Down. Well, you get the distilling down, but if you are going to start aging, use toasted oak skewers in a clear mason jar so you can see the color change.
Yeah.
I mean, Jake, we did that a long time. It was one of the like early episodes where you bought that kit, where you buy like the White Dog from Buffalo Trace, and then they had different woods and things that you could put in and age. And they have a little bit more of the science down of, hey, use this amount of wood chips, and let it age for this many weeks. But I would say start off in something clear like that so you can see what the color's doing. And you can easily check it and see what's coming along. This is, again, when it's legal to make alcohol that you can drink, not just essential oils or lawnmower fuel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was fun making the lawnmower fuel with you.
Yeah, it's, you know,
it was a nice way to spend a Saturday afternoon or whatever.
Yeah. And if you're home brewing, this isn't just like a one-day thing. Like, it's going to be a day getting the mash into the fermentation, and you're going to wait 4 to 5 days for the fermentation to end. Yeah. And then it's about a 6-hour process, and you don't want to rush it. It's the same thing like good smoked meat. You can't rush it. You want to have it just barely above like the 180. I think we were right around 189 is what the vapor temp was when we were doing it. And you want to keep it around there, and it's slow. It's a drip, 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 drip. But that's kind of what it is. I mean, hell, if you've been to Whiskey Acres and done a tour when the distillation's in process, even with a 500-gallon still, it's not dripping, but it's not like it's flooding out tons and tons of alcohol. It takes, about the still runs by the time you fill it up, which would be the same for home distillation, about 7 hours. And you get, in terms of liquid volume, 35, 40 gallons out of a 500-gallon still in 7 hours. So it takes time. Like, this is something that you're not, like, you're going to be on your distillation day. You're there for a day. Like, I recommend doing it outside on a nice day with some friends and some cigars and a smoker running if you have a smoker or a grill, and just enjoy it. But it's fun. Jake, you're quiet over there. Are you worried that home distillation is going to ruin your sales?
I'm sure home distillation is not going to ruin our sales.
I didn't.
If anything, it would probably help because people don't realize how much work it is and how hard it is, and they just give up and want to go buy a bottle that's tasting good and ready to go. But I am curious, like, I don't think I would get into it just because I don't need another project like that. But I do think it would be a really good thing to just kind of introduce more people to the category, have help them learn about it. And when you look at home brewing, almost every brewer at a major brewery started home brewing. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how you learn the basics, develop the passion, and then want to make it into a career. And with distilling not being legal at home, there's not a lot of ways to get introduced or learn how to distill unless you know somebody at a distillery, have those connections, or want to actually go to school for it. Mm-hmm. So there's really nobody that's just kind of on a whim able to learn the basics and get into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the thing that I've been, or my biggest problem, I think, with the home distilling ban is that, like, how are you supposed to become a distiller other than going to college and stuff without having some way to try it before you start a distillery or whatever, right? Like, I mean, I think we all know that, like, most people are probably doing it before they start their distillery, but, like, to me, it was like, I don't know what your avenue to getting into that industry is other than, a degree in chemical engineering or whatever.
I mean, there's schools out there, and it's like Rob at Whiskey Acres did Harriet Watt, which is online classes in Scotland. Mm-hmm. There's ways to get it, but yeah,
But I mean, hands-on experiences,
right?
Hands-on and just developing the passion for it, I think is way more important than committing to going to school and then being like, you know what, this is just not really as fun as I thought it was going to be, and kind of wasting time and money.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's not like there's a ton of distilleries that you can go work at. On top of it, like just looking at Whiskey Acres on the distillation side, so take away the bar side, take away everything else. It was me and Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Jamie and Nick as the owners and everything, and the farmers and doing all their side, and they had the whole business side that they had to run. When it comes to distillation, we were producing 250 barrels a year, and it only took 2 people. And I can tell you, if like to learn an assistant distiller position, not going to pay your bills. And it's not a knock on distillery; it's just the way it is. There's not a lot of jobs you can go learn and get started at. So, I mean, breweries and wineries, there's tons more of, and you can understand the initial process, but it takes time, hands-on distilling, to really get your palate and senses down, and know where it's at. And you know, even like after 2 years of doing it, I would still like, hey Rob, here's what I'm making the cut. Verify. Like, I don't want to fuck it up. Like, so it's like Rob kept telling me, he's like, dude, down on this shit. Like, he's like, you probably make a little bit cleaner cuts and you're probably a little more cautious than I am on stuff. But it takes time, it takes practice. This will be a good way to learn. If you're wanting to spend some time learning this before we figure out what's going to happen with distilled spirits for drinking, I would recommend getting a still set up and getting your TTB permit to make some fuel ethanol and start running your lawnmower on some ethanol and learn it that way. Don't do it with a nice mower. Do it with a shitty mower, just in case you don't get high enough proof and you blow it up. So, but
make sure you own a lawnmower.
I do. It was electric, but no, I'm kidding. Yeah. I had 2 push mowers actually, so I had a shitty one and a nice one. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think, yeah, like I said, I think the best way to do it is if you had a group of friends that want to learn how to distill and make fuel ethanol. Like it's good. It doesn't hurt to get in with a group of guys and buy it, split the cost. I mean, I've always been someone you can only do something as well as your tools allow you to. So I didn't want to have a backwoods still set up. I wanted to be able to be precise and control, super sciencey with everything. And the biggest thing is, like, as you're learning how to do things like this, I have notes and spreadsheets out the wazoo of every batch I made. That's the only way to remember exacts and keep moving. But if you're going to get into it, it takes. I probably watched Barley and Hops Brewing I rewatched them. I probably spent about 40, 50 hours just watching YouTube videos from one guy to understand it real well. So, but it is fun, and like, I think the first time we saw a drop come out of the still, we were super excited. I'm like, holy shit, I actually did something right.
That's how you know that it's actually working. So
yeah. Yeah, it's trial and error, but if
we had
if
to
you've
stop
been doing,
Roberto from drinking that, but
yeah, I can just see him.
I totally could see that.
But no, it's like I said, don't run out and think you can buy a still and start making alcohol and drinking it legally without ramifications. Like, even at this point, they're still saying you're going to need a permit from the TTB. So
yeah, I would count on that.
So, but definitely fun. We can't help with legal questions about everything. If you do have some questions about some setups or things, shoot us messages. I can help with some of that, or I can help you with how to decipher some of the distilling side, because I have a little bit of experience in the distillation side. But there's a lot of different setups out there. It's just, since I was watching that one guy's YouTube channel, he was very big on this still setup, and I'm like, I'm just going to buy what he has. It's going to be easier to follow along and learn. But at the same point, you don't need to go spend $3 or $4 grand. If you already have a homebrew setup, I mean, you're basically about $1,000 away from a really good 3 to 5 gallon still. And you can also make essential oils or distilled water or whatever else legally.
Yeah.
I still think Jake's mad that he's going to lose some sales from his store.
I don't think home distilling is going to take any of our sales.
I
did home brewing? Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll see it with home distillation, but like home brew, you got all these people that thought that they made really good brews or beer, and they started opening up brew pubs and spent all this money on brew pubs. And then everyone's like, "Nah, your beer's actually kind of shitty." And now we've seen a mass closing of a lot of home brews. I don't think we're going to see in the future home distillers get into small distillation setups, mainly because you can't really do whiskey at all. You'd have to do more of the clear spirits. So
yeah, I mean, it takes a serious investment in time if you do want to do proper whiskey.
Well, and once you get into selling it, that's a whole different other like legal animal than just like consuming it for yourself. So
right,
yeah. Most people are not gonna try and do that, I would imagine.
Jake, you're not concerned that Gold Eagle Drew's gonna buy a home distillation setup and then open a store right next to you that he just sells his own stuff at?
The only reason I would be concerned about that is that he would blow himself up.
All right. Didn't know. Just want to check. So I'll have to come home or when I come home for a few weeks sometime, we'll have to get everything out and set up, and I'll show you how to do it. It's kind of fun. Which, I mean, you've been to big distilleries and seen the whole process in action. Yeah. But
I will say, to see it on a smaller home setup scale.
I will say, when you first start seeing the alcohol come out, you're like, okay, I made alcohol. Mm-hmm. And you always have your conversations with your friends of like, if the world ended and you were stuck on a desert island, what's your value of why you should be on the desert island? Like, immediately I'm like, I can make alcohol. Keep me on the island. I can make alcohol for us all. Like, now I have a reason to be on that island. So
yeah, I got to feed your fermenter once or twice, I think, while you were on
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, you came down to the distillery for a little bit. Roberto, we weren't mashing the day Roberto was there, but he got to dump barrels, which made him excited. So, but it'll be interesting. There's still going to be a lot that has to unfold from the home distillation setup. We'll keep people posted. Like I said, if you have questions about some of the equipment or distillation questions, if you're making fuel ethanol, let me know. I can help you out there, but yeah, it'll be fun. If you're looking for a new hobby, I think it's fun. But just make sure you do everything legally is my advice. So
yeah, depending on how this pans out, something that I always kind of wanted to do, but I gotta wait until my kids are a little bit older. Just from a time perspective.
No, you don't. No, because then they're going to be into sports, and then you're not going to have any time to do anything in life.
No, that's true.
And this takes a lot of time. So now's your golden window.
Steal whatever you distill.
Yeah, you think they're going to steal that and not what's fucking behind him?
Yeah, you're right.
I think of how many fingernail marks he's going to have to make on the back of those labels. So he knows where every single. You need to get one of those you need to get those weight bar sensor things that they use at the nice bars.
Yeah.
So you can weigh out every day to make sure, like, every day Jake has to come home from vacation. He spends 7 hours weighing bottles.
I'll do what
who took a sip of my Elijah Craig single barrel batch?
I'll do what they do in hotel mini bars where there's like pressure sensors. So anytime a bottle gets moved, it'll set an alarm off or whatever.
Yeah. Any other things you guys want to discuss on home distilling?
No, I
don't think so.
I'm optimistic, cautiously so, but it's I think it's cool because, like we said, it's kind of came out of nowhere. I think it's getting people excited. So if
at the end of the day, I don't think the government's going to be able to make it illegal to home distill. I mean, that's been the big thing is you've been able to make your own beer. You've been able to make your own wine. Like, you can still screw those things up and get yourself very sick and be very dangerous to people.
Yeah,
I mean, the biggest thing with this,
like we talked about, on like the 3-tier system and all that stuff, like this is like antiquated law from like Prohibition, basically.
Most of our liquor laws are still Prohibition.
Yeah. So like I don't know that this is gonna ever come back in the current form of like an absolute home distilling ban. It's just not reasonable, especially when wine and beer is totally fine to make at home. So yeah.
All right. Well, Jake, before your store goes out of business because everyone starts making their own alcohol and drinking it and not needing the Wellers and the Taylors and things like that anymore, where can people buy some good non-home distilled alcohol from?
Yeah, make sure you support us before we go out of business when Drew comes out with his garage whiskey.
Drew's bathtub gin.
Yeah. You can find us at goldeaglewine.com. You can visit us at 255 Peterson Road in Libertyville. Find us on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine, Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits. I cannot help you with home distilling. Don't know much about it, but I can help you with tasting your home distillate if you need opinions, as long as you promise it's not going to kill me.
Once it's legal and it's not long.
Once it's legal, yeah.
Yeah, hypothetically, once it's legal.
Jake, if people want to go back and listen to some older episodes, where can they find us at? Where can they hear us at? Where can they watch us at?
Yeah, you can listen to us on Apple, Google, and Spotify or other podcast platforms. Watch us on Spotify and YouTube. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Bourbon Matters. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what your guys' reactions are to this law being overturned. And if you guys are excited to get some stills and bust out some ethanol fuel.
Yeah, I kind of want to do it because it's been years since it's been what?
It's just
a year and almost 5 months since I last made alcohol at Whiskey Acres, and it's been probably 4 years since I made my last lawnmower fuel.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'd be a very good look to do that at my apartment here in Utah, especially with all the Utah laws. Like I'm guessing Utah might be the last state to allow home distilling. I think I'll just leave that in Illinois. So, all right, guys. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.